Hi, besties and bosses. How are you doing? I'm excited for this conversation. Let me see if I can pull this up in the group so I can see your comments because you might have questions on this one. I think this should be very valuable. This will definitely be a mini masterclass on content and what is going to take your content past valuable, but actually into the conversions you want, because this is something I just know so many people are struggling with. I wrote a we're posting this today. I have a reel, I think it's going out today. But I was essentially saying along the lines of, I know everyone's saying our space is so saturated. And I know I say this, right? Our space is more saturated than ever. It's post 2020, it boomed, the economy, all of this. And also what I've seen to be true, and I think this is maybe just helpful for everyone to hear, because I think there can almost be a little fear mongering that comes up with that noise and like concern that you can't grow a business or make money anymore. But what I have seen to be true, especially as the new year has clicked over. We just had one of our best quarters in business. I'm just still pulling this up. There we go. I've seen almost every day I have a client messaging me that they booked another client, that they've had a really big sale. And we're talking like, high ticket sales as well as low ticket sales. But I think that's helpful for context. And I think that's important to hear. So yes, it's saturated and that is true. And also what we're talking about today in terms of the adjustments you can make to your content, to your marketing, to your sales strategy to cut past that noise really are the difference maker. And that's why I want to have this conversation, because what I also have seen to be true, like I'm seeing that in my business, with my business and with my clients, and I'm really seeing people thrive. And I want you to hear that evidence, because again, there is, I think, just there's just a lot of talk about how things are really hard right now. And I think two things can be true at the same time. I think because of that, it is more important than ever. And this is what I'm supporting clients with and why they're getting those sorts of results, why I'm seeing clients tell me that they've just made a 15K sale, or that they've just had their best month ever, or that they're making consistent, 11K to 12K months, or just had someone, I think they just raised over 500K for something new that they're launching, right? The reason we're seeing that is I'm also really supporting them to be really intentional and dial in their strategy. And of course, the mindset behind it that supports their clarity on their strategy and actually taking action and how they're showing up within that strategy. And a lot of what we've been looking at, this is why I've been on such a tear around this, is really deepening the message and I would say simplifying actually the marketing strategy, but so it's really holistic, because I just see, and I see this, look, we have 17,000 people in here. What I see is there are so many people who are smart and good at what they do. And I can tell based on what I'm seeing with content and marketing go out that they're probably not getting the results they want on the back end, simply because I can tell there's not a holistic marketing strategy, or there are just some components missing from their content that is really going to allow it to get noticed, but get noticed by the right people and convert into, whether it's people in your audience, people following you, people on your email list, or people turning into warm leads and sales. So that's why this conversation today, I feel like I'm all amped up about it, but I have been studying this for 8 years in business. I've been coaching for 10, but I've been in business for 8. So I've been studying this for 8 years, but really, I think I've shared this with y'all. Last January, I started to notice a really big shift in how my content was performing. But I would say I actually started to notice that. So last year was 2023, like October, November of 2022. And January is really when I started to see just kind of like the ripple out effect from that. And I have just been very intentionally studying this in my own business, through my clients, through other businesses that I know are doing this really well. Anyway, so that's why I'm bringing this here today, because I just know if you are putting out consistent content, I know a couple things are true. I know your content is valuable. I know your offer is valuable. I know that's not the value problem. Like I really want you to hear that. But what I also know is, because so many clients come to me, they think their content's not good enough. They think it's not valuable enough. They're not delivering enough value. Maybe there's something wrong with their offer. And usually that's not the case. This doesn't mean we don't want to have conversations around having a really intentional offer that's a need to have, pricing it accordingly, understanding how that sets you up for reoccurring revenue or to meet your revenue goals. I will drop a link for the Path to Consistent 10K Months, my free masterclass that walks you through holistically your strategy you need to have in place to make those reoccurring revenue months from 10K months and above to 20K months and up from there. So I will drop that because obviously it's more than just your content, more than just your marketing. But today, what I want to dive into are those missing components in the marketing. There's, I think, 5 pieces I have that I've really noticed, because oftentimes when, again, a client comes to me and we're looking at their marketing, we're looking at their content, this is content specifically, they have those other pieces in place, the content is valuable, right? I see all of your content in this group. I see how valuable it is, but if it's not, again, bringing in those leads, if it's not growing your audience, if you're not getting the engagement you want, if you're not bringing in warm leads, or those aren't turning into clients, there's probably one of these pieces that is an opportunity for you to either start including if you're not including it, or to really focus on. Okay, so I've teased this out more than enough. Let me pull up my notes because this is important stuff. And I really hope that this will be helpful and valuable for you. I wrote a rant here, but we're not going to read my rant. I think the first one here that I think is maybe the biggest, they're all important, but this is one that I see across the board. It is probably a note I give to my clients quite a bit. And honestly, I'll use myself as an example. I am my own best case study here. Again, I think I've always had valuable content. I've been putting content out every day for over 8 years now. I have put something, whether it's a post or a live stream or a podcast, we have put out, I'm a prolific creator in that we've put out a lot. And I think I create what you would say is good content, but there's a difference between good content and good marketing that gets you results. And I don't know if we talked about this in here. I definitely did a reel on this. Alex Hormozi, this will be just really brief here, but Alex Hormozi had a great quote, and where he was speaking about, really, 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 really great content will always get seen, but mediocre content that is good marketing, that's what will always get seen. And so when I'm looking at content with clients, I'm really looking at it through the lens of marketing. And are we only creating content that's good content? That is very, very different than content that is also good marketing, designed to elicit a response, that's designed to elicit an emotional reaction, that is designed to elicit someone to take action, right? Which is to engage, to click, to buy. And those are two different things. And I really want you to be thinking about that, because if you are putting out consistent content and it's not eliciting the response you want, that does not mean you're not good at creating content. That means there's probably an opportunity to look at how to turn your content into marketing. And one of the key elements here, and this is something I really noticed when I was looking back at my content last January, is relevance. And relevance in terms of, are you really making sure that your content is addressing the things your people need to know, want to hear about, that is helping them put out fires, that is speaking to the problems, the challenges they have, the results they want? Or is your content more just information or storytelling or, gosh, things that are just really great, again, great content, great valuable posts or videos, but that aren't relevant to someone who is going to want to think about buying what it is you sell? I'm going to explain this a little bit more, but I'm hoping that piece makes sense to you, because if you can understand this and start to look at your content through this lens, it can make such a huge shift in terms of what you see in terms of the results on the back end. So I'll be really transparent here. Looking at my content last January, again, I think my content's always been, I've built a multi-6-figure business because of my content. I have only marketed online. I don't do offline marketing. Yes, I've built very strong relationships. So, I wouldn't say it's only content, and it's often, because I also had a free coaching call with someone, but even booking free coaching calls or a consultation with someone, first someone had to see my content to build that relationship with me, to hire me. So we've made almost $1.4 million in about the last, just a little over 5 years. That is all the direct result of content. So I do think my content has done a great job with marketing. But when I was looking at it last January, if I'm just being super transparent, I was like, oh, some of this is kind of boring. It's not that it's bad, but some of this just feels like I'm just giving people information or telling them stuff that I think is really important, or the ins and outs and details of things that I guess are good to know, but it's none of this is something that if I was thinking about hiring someone to help me solve my problem, in business, like this would be super valuable. Like this would grab my attention. This would make me be like, oh my gosh, tell me more, right? It's just sort of like, this is just nice to read. And so we talked a couple live streams ago about offers and just some of the things to pay attention to. And this is a conversation I have with clients quite a bit. And I do think this is a part of your holistic strategy. You both want to have and need to have offer, as well as need to have content, right? The challenge with when it's saturated online and when there's a lot of people who are selling very similar things and who are saying very similar things is if you're not bringing content that's a need to consume and you don't have an offer that's a need to have and it's just a nice to have, that's just going to get filtered out and people aren't going to pay attention to it. Not because it's not well written or well executed or because you suck at content, but because people only have so much time and bandwidth. Right? And so we only have so much time and bandwidth and we have a problem we need to solve or we have a desire we're trying to meet, our brains are literally filtering for what is relevant to me, what is going to help me solve this problem, get this need met, right? Everything else that's a nice to have, who doesn't have like a million emails or like things tabbed where it's like, I'll get to this later, but it's just like not important now. That's what your brain is doing subconsciously with content. And that's also what the algorithm is doing. The algorithm isn't like favoring certain people or like trying to screw people over by not showing people your content. But the algorithm is literally filtering for, is this piece of content, who is it relevant to? And that's who it's going to show it to because it is saturated online. There's only so much feed space to like if we pushed everything into the feed, right, it literally can't be all at the top at once. This is how you hack the algorithm, quite honestly. I think everybody's like trying to do like, I don't know, whatever the thing is, like to hack the algorithm. And look, there are tips and tricks and tools that are super valuable. I use trending audios as well. And I've also not used trending audios and had Reels do really well on Instagram, for example, right? That's not the whole strategy, but of course those things are going to be beneficial. But really, the reason even a trending audio is helpful, if we think about it, is that is something the people have said is relevant to them that they want to hear. And so if you're using that, right, it is more relevant. It's going to get, the algorithm knows it's going to show it to more people. But the algorithm is not basing on trending audios alone, because I've also seen plenty of people use trending audios and have a real flop. I have as well. And I've not used trending audios and had Reels do really, really well in terms of reach and conversions. And the difference is what is the context of that piece of content and what is the relevance to my audience when it's relevant to you. And the algorithm knows, because the way you engage with your algorithm, you tell the algorithm what you're interested in. Sometimes it gets it wrong, but this is how it is so creepy, right? And you suddenly get ads popping up. You're like, how does Instagram and Facebook, like, how do they know that this is what I'm looking for? It's both creepy, and I also find it very valuable sometimes because I feel like I'm delegating to the algorithm to help me find the things I want without me having to do a big search and spend time for it. But that is an aside, right? But that's because the algorithm, ads, right, all of this technology, it understands what is relevant to me based on my behavior. And so that's what it's going to show to me. So the algorithm is paying attention to the word choice you use, what you're sharing your content, to know, do we show this to people or not? And who do we even show this to or not? And I talk so much about not just having a viral reel or lots of vanity metrics, but really getting noticed by the right people, growing an audience with right fit potential clients, right? Bringing them through the door, nurturing those relationships so you can build right fit clients. I think I said this probably on our last couple of live streams. I've had people hire me who have massive audiences of over 100,000 people, but they're having a hard time bringing in sales because it's not necessarily the right people in their audience that are going to be, a really great fit for their offer. So we're not making virality or a large audience or tons of engagement wrong. Do not hear that. But what turns your content into a content strategy that's going to bring you those conversions you want is understanding what is relevant to your audience and starting to really bring that to your content. Because again, that's both going to hack the algorithm, so to say, like it really will. And that's also what is going to then, when you are in someone's feed, because the algorithm has put it there, have someone want to literally stop their scroll, pay attention, consume your content, right? They start to build a relationship, and that's what's going to lead to those sales on the back end. So really be thinking about this with your content. If you're not getting the engagement or the conversions you want, I'm going to keep saying this. This does not mean you suck at content or content doesn't work or your strategy doesn't work. I think a lot of times what I'll find happen with clients when we're doing an audit of their overall strategy, if something's not working, it's just so easy for someone to go to something like, well, free calls don't work for me, or masterclasses don't work for me, or challenges don't work for me, or Instagram doesn't work for me, or Facebook groups don't work for me, right? Whatever the eventually the tool we're using to implement a strategy. I really want you to start to see that those are all components of your strategy. They all work. Right? I mean, they don't all work if you do them all at the same time because you're going to be spread thin, but all of those pieces in a content strategy work. Those are just platforms. Those are just places you're putting your content. But if Instagram isn't working for you, if masterclasses aren't working for you, if Facebook groups aren't working for you, it's not that Facebook groups or masterclasses or Instagram or Reels or whatever that is don't work. It's that most likely, and it doesn't mean that your content sucks either, right? It's just that most likely we want to look at one of these components I'm talking about, and there's a very good chance the context of what you're putting into any of those components isn't as relevant as it could be to your audience. And when you make it more relevant to what it is you're selling and to what it is people need to hear so that they understand why your offer is a need to have, how you can help them put out that fire, how you can help them get what they want, watch, you will notice how that starts to increase reach, how that increases, if we care about virality, how that increases your audience and follower count, how that increases your email list growth, but also your open rates and your click-through rates and bookings for calls and people landing on your sales page and then conversions on the other side. I'm just seeing, no questions. I want to make sure I can talk about all of these. I'm going to harp on this one a little bit more here because I know this one in particular for most of my clients is the most challenging because I work with high achievers, I work with recovering perfectionists, I work with people who are really smart. I was talking about this with a client the other day and I was like, the challenge of being super smart and being super gifted and just being good at so many things, it's twofold. One, when you're super smart and gifted, you're used to things coming easily to you. And so when something doesn't work right away, it's easy just then to decide you're not good at it, you can't do this, right? Or like this thing doesn't work and to move on to the next thing instead of figuring out what is it about this that isn't working? What's the problem? How do we address the right problem? How do we solve this? How do we master this so that it works for you? But the other thing I really find with my high achievers, so if you're a high achiever, like, hi, I am you, I see you, I get you, I'm also a recovering perfectionist, so I get this. But I find it so easy to, instead of looking really neutrally at a piece of content and your content marketing strategy and to understand like what's going on here, it's very easy to just turn it internal and inward, where it's like, I'm not good enough, I need to get better at content because I'm not good at content, right? It becomes a very like, I'm not valuable, my offer's not valuable. I'm like, it's very internal. It can be often around the enoughness piece where I'm not doing enough, right? I just need to do more. And maybe if you're not taking enough action, I don't know, obviously I'm not talking to anyone here one-on-one, maybe in some cases you do need to do more, right? I think sometimes we're not being consistent enough or we're not showing up frequently enough. And I do think that if you're wanting to master your content marketing strategy, creating more and posting more frequently will help you to shorten the learning curve and to build momentum faster, not because your strategy needs you to do more or because you need to show up more. I know a lot of people talk about how, they grew their Instagram following by posting 2 times a day. That's not actually necessary, but that will shorten your learning curve, right? That if we're talking about relevance, you're like, great, I want to really see what content's relevant to my audience and really focus on that. If you do post 2 times a day, you're just going to get more data faster. You're going to build momentum faster. You're going to cut your learning curve down simply because you're doing it more frequently. However, bringing this back to what I was talking about here, that is that's just speeding up the process for you. That does not mean that you're not good enough, right? That you're not doing enough and you need to do more. That's not solving the right problem. And so I think these are really helpful for you to start to think about, because if you're not getting the results you want from your content, again, I just think it's so easy. I see this for my clients, how easy it is to then make it there's something wrong with you, you're not doing enough, you're not good enough problem, and that's solving the wrong problem. And if that is what you're trying to solve, and that's not the problem, right? You can spend 3 months working on feeling good enough and like believing you're valuable, or like trying to figure out what's going to make your content more valuable, which will honestly probably make it perform less because you're going to put in more information and more things that just literally aren't working right now in social media. Or you're going to burn yourself out posting way more than you need to, as opposed to looking at, oh, what if you actually are good enough? Like, that's just not the problem to solve. What if your offer is good enough? What if your content's valuable enough? But we're just looking at some of these micro shifts and tweaks to make. Like, that's actually the thing to pay attention to. And if you can pay attention to that, you can close that gap. You can take action on that, right? That's what's going to get you the really big results you want on the other side. And it can be that simple. Okay, just taking a big breath because I feel like I just went on quite a little bit of a rant there. I also did not say this, but I'm just seeing as people are hopping on and off, and I know y'all will be listening on the replay as well. Leave me a comment and say hi if you're live. We are giving a giveaway today. I have access to my bonus playbook for the copy and content prompts for six-figure content and copy that my clients and I use, and it's a bonus playbook with those prompts. So we will be giving one of those away. So just say hey if you're here. Totally forgot to say that because I jumped right into our class today. So relevance is one there. If you have a question around this, let me know. But what I really want you to be thinking about with this one is, if I put myself into my ideal client's shoes. Yes, I know ideal client stuff is so basic and no one wants to think about that, but honestly, this is like going back to basics. Like, this is the shit that's going to make your content pop. Where are they now in their journey? What are they struggling with? What's going on for them? What do they really want? How can I meet them where they're at in my content and speak to something that is going to help them to feel seen, heard, and understood, that's going to help them feel like I get them, that's going to help them see that there's a light at the tunnel, that's going to help them identify what's going on and to see, oh, this is the thing I need to address, that's going to help them put out one of those fires, that's going to help them see what is possible for them. The more you do that, as opposed to, I think what I see a lot of us do is we start to talk about stuff that like we're really excited about. We want to like go into the history and the nuance and the details. Look, I do this too. I like want to tell you all the brain science in a post around, you know, what's going on with your subconscious and like what's going on with your mindset. I do think some people appreciate and want to hear that. But if you're sitting there and you're like, Kim, I just need to figure out how to get my content working for me so I can book a fucking client so that I can make the money I need to make to be able to make payroll and to pay my team members and to pay myself, right? All of like the inner workings of your brain. It's like super interesting. Maybe you'll like have that as a nice to have, but that doesn't put out the fire for you and help you understand why you need to pay attention to this content or why you need what it is I'm helping you with. If I, like I am here, I mean, if I'm telling you like, hey, these are the things you need to know. If you address this, this will help your content become more of a content marketing strategy and a part of your marketing, you know, your holistic strategy that will help you to actually stop the scroll, to get noticed, to get the algorithm working for you, to get more conversions, clicks, likes, engagement, people sign up for your email list, people landing on your landing page, people booking calls, buying, right? That just is going to be a little bit more relevant for most of you. So hopefully that piece makes sense there. I would really be looking at, am I just fire hosing people with information that is, again, just really nice to know and interesting for me? Or am I speaking to what is really relevant for my person and audience? That's going to make a huge, huge difference. Natalie, your girl Nat is here. Ah, hi, lady. Let me know now if this is landing for you and if that makes sense or if you have a question. Because otherwise I'm going to jump, because we're going to run out of time. Otherwise I'm going to jump to the next one. So the next thing, your content strategy might be missing. And again, this doesn't mean your content sucks or your content isn't good enough. We're just looking at taking content and turning that into a part of your content marketing strategy. A marketing strategy, your overall strategy, is a holistic piece of your business. So it's not just your content, but your content is a part of that strategy. And so no one's content sucks. Everybody's content is valuable. Again, I see it all day in this group, but this is what might be missing in some of that to turn it into a strategy that's going to help with those conversions. And that's speaking to the problem or creating problem awareness in your content. I have in my notes here, don't come at me, and literally don't come at me for this one, because I'm just the truth teller here in terms of what's going to help your content get noticed. I know there's like a whole side of the internet that's like, don't speak to pain points, don't do problem awareness, don't speak to the problem. My coach did a great post or reel about why she doesn't agree with this, and I'm in that camp because I am a business coach and I'm a business owner and I'm a CEO and I think like a CEO. And look, at the end of the day, whether we want to admit it or not, you and I are marketers and you and I are business owners that have offers, ideally, that are a solution to someone's problem or that are a solution that helps someone get what they need. And if we're not communicating that in your content isn't strategically helping someone understand what it is you can do for them and why they should pay you money, right? If we do get lumped into that nice to have category then, because I don't know about you, but I spend money to solve problems and I spend money to get the things I really want. And if I don't see something speaking to how it's going to do that, or to something that's helping me understand why something I really want, why there's a problem that needs to be solved to help me get that, I'm not buying that product. I'm not buying that service because I value my money, not because, just because I'm a good steward to my money and I spend my money wisely. And so I think this is just something. Natalie says landing, so glad. So I think this is just something, again, you do not have to, everybody, the beautiful thing about being a business owner is you get to have your own opinion, you get to decide and sift through what I'm saying and decide what feels in integrity, what feels good for you, what doesn't feel good for you. I will just say, as someone who has been marketing for 8 years very effectively, who's made a lot of money and who has helped my clients to make far more money than I have, thanks to, in part, their content marketing strategy, speaking to problem awarenesses, speaking to problems, and you can do so with empathy, you can do so with care, but highlighting this for people and connecting the dots as to how you can help someone solve that problem, or as to problem awareness means highlighting like, hey, you desire this thing, what you might not realize is this thing over here is preventing you from getting this thing you want, and I can help you get rid of that problem so you can have the desire you want, right? If we're not doing that, in my opinion, we're really missing doing our jobs as business owners and marketers and some of the psychology that goes into what compels people to take action and to buy. This is me going to be giving you some of the nuance here, but we just have to remember as humans, we are quite basic. Yes, we're all smart, we're gifted, we're educated, we're talented, all of that. And our brains are so fucking basic in terms of like, we are just animals with some very core basic needs. And we are wired to avoid pain and to seek pleasure. Full stop, right? We are wired to conserve calories and to do things that are familiar that don't ask us to stretch. And so if we are selling something, particularly for most of you who are selling high ticket offers that ask people to stretch both their finances and also their comfort zone in terms of the work they're going to have to do, if we're not connecting it back to how this is going to help someone avoid pain or to seek pleasure, and we're not making that clear, literally the way the brain is wired, ain't no one buying it. Like, and I don't mean that to be an asshole. I just mean that in terms of like, that's just psychology and how our brain works. So speaking to the problem or creating problem awareness, this isn't being a jerk. This isn't being slimy. I really think we can do this. The way I think about this is helpful to hear is I just see this as someone who cares so deeply about my people getting results and so deeply about helping more of you to make money in a way that is sustainable and predictable in your business. I just see it as really being out of integrity, quite honestly, and not being that empathetic and not being that kind if I'm not doing my job by saying like, hey, I'm noticing these things that could help you. I think about this as a coach. Part of my job with clients, right, is not to just be like, everything you're doing is great, good job. Like, no, none of my clients hire me for that. My job as a coach is not to be an a-hole, but it's to be very clear and lovingly kind and direct, and to help clients see their blind spots and to help clients see like, hey, this thing you're doing here, I don't know if you realize it, but it might be making it a little harder for you to book clients, or this thing you're doing might be having you get in your own way and really preventing you from showing up consistently or from connecting with the people who want to hire you, right? That's my job as a coach. And so that's the way I think about this in terms of speaking to problems or creating problem awareness. I do not think it's slimy. I think we can do it in slimy, gross, manipulative ways, but no one in this group is that. I really think this is, whether you're a coach or not, you don't have to be a coach. I just think that is a good analogy there. I really see this as doing our jobs and being one of the most empathetic and kindest things you can do for your audience. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a piece of content from someone that has problem awareness that might not even be something I'm going to buy, but how valuable I find it when there's a piece of content that gives me awareness around something I didn't know. I'll give you 2 examples here, maybe that are helpful, and then let me know if you have any questions around this, and I'll jump to the other ones. I do have a call after this live. But 2 examples here. One, I'm quite active, and I, as y'all know, like how do I say this succinctly? I'm trying to, I am quite active. I care quite a bit about my health, and I have seen some content recently that's really targeted at me because it's relevant, right? Because the algorithm knows what I'm paying attention to, so it's being put in front of me, right? That's the point of relevance. That's speaking to things like if you're someone who's 42, which is me, and you're, have certain goals in terms of like my big fitness goal is longevity. That is like the number one goal for me more than anything. If you're just doing cardio and you're not eating enough protein, like how that might be really preventing me from reaching my goals. Now, that's not mean. That's not like, hey, Kim, you suck. And because you do a lot of cardio, you're not in good shape and you're a horrible, bad person and you should buy my product. It's like, hey, Kim, if this is relevant to you, right? This is the relevance piece. But if what you really care about is longevity and you really care about being, healthy and fit, but like also having a great quality of life into your 50s and 60s and 70s, if you're just doing cardio and you're not focusing on muscle building, and this is me doing a weight on a live stream, and you're not focused on eating enough protein, right? You're probably not actually going to meet those goals. Like that is problem awareness, because until seeing some content like that, I have no idea, right, that that's a thing. And I'm just going to keep doing the thing I've always been doing and thinking I'm doing it right and meeting my goals, right? I'm going to keep doing all my cardio and being a vegetarian and eating all the carbs, because this is what I did up until, I don't know, maybe a year ago, right? I mean, like, I am crushing it with my health. And until I get that problem awareness, right, I don't know, oh, there's some things I need to shift to actually be able to reach my goal. I'm getting further away from my goal, not closer to it. Hopefully this example is landing. And so that problem awareness content, I'm not like, oh my gosh, they're hitting on my pain points, what jerks. I'm like, thank goodness someone who's really fucking smart and knows what they do and cares enough about my result is willing to say the thing I don't want to hear in a piece of content and start to highlight, hey, these are some things that might not be working for you. Because now that I have this awareness, I can start to make the shifts and actually do the things that are going to get me the result I want. So that's one example. Other example I had, I think this is one I saw today. I knew we had this live stream, and I don't know what I looked at. I think I watched someone's like reel about healthcare, but I am being targeted by all of the healthcare products, hair care products right now. It's really funny. I like to study what's working, so sometimes I go down rabbit holes and like, it really fucks with my algorithm. It's, you can train your algorithm. For a while I had it trained just to show me Bengal cats because I didn't feel like seeing stuff in our industry. Anyway, so this is all I'm getting. And there was a really great ad today that was an example of the problem awareness and speaking to the problem and pain point. And it was essentially speaking to if you have dandruff and you're just putting like oil in your hair, why this doesn't work, and essentially that this is going to make the problem worse, not better, but this is basically what most people are doing to solve the problem. And it went, I didn't read the whole thing because it isn't actually relevant to me. The algorithm is wrong in that case. It just seems relevant because of what I was researching or paying attention to. But that was such a great example of what I think is, that's a pain point, and that is speaking to problem awareness, but it is, I didn't read that, or if that was me, I wouldn't read that and think, oh my gosh, what a horrible company just trying to sell me something. Of course they're trying to sell me something, but assuming that they're in integrity and they have a good product that actually works, and I know all of you here are in integrity and you have a good product and solution that actually works, right? What that is doing is saying, hey, if you have this problem and you keep doing this thing that you think that, like, traditionally everybody in the industry thinks is the thing that solves it, right? You're putting more and more oil because it seems like your scalp is dry and that's going to be soothing. You're actually making the problem worse, not better, right? Just think of, like, if that alone, even if you didn't buy the problem and that was you, or you're just like, oh my gosh, mind blown. Like, if I just changed that alone, maybe this problem wouldn't be as bad. That is so valuable in my opinion. Like, I think that's one of the most valuable things someone could do for someone, right? It's like when your friend has spinach in their teeth and you're like, hey, you got some spinach in your teeth? You're not like being a jerk. I think that's just like the kindest thing you can do. But also think about how valuable or powerful that is as a piece of content marketing, as a part of a strategy to draw in the right people, to bring in people who have the problem you solve, to educate people on what's going on and why what they've tried might not be working. So they're not like, oh, nothing works. And also to highlight why a different solution that you happen to sell might be the thing that could get them the result they want, right? That's pretty ingenious. And so this is, again, I know a lot of people resist this. I know there's like a whole movement in our online space that like wants to basically throw the middle finger up at all of the things that are sound business principles. But I would just offer some examples here as to why maybe this might be something, if you're not including it in your content marketing strategy, to think about including it, to see how it really doesn't have to be you being a jerk, how it can really be something that is, I think, quite supportive and helpful for people in your audience. All right, Scene. Kate is so happy that I can make this one live. So lovely to see you. Nice to see you, Kate. Nice to have you here. So glad to have you. Glad to have the friendly faces on here. Let me know. I'm going to hop to the next one, but let me know, just because I do want to make sure. I have 5. We're only on 3. This might have to be a 2-parter, but let me know if either of your questions around this. The third one here, I think I can explain this one pretty quickly, but is connection. So I think this is something intuitively, everyone in this group, y'all are, I think, people who understand and want to connect and understand the concept of building know, like, and trust with your audience and how that leads to conversions. I do think, and I just need to sip of water real quickly, y'all. I do think this is something, when I'm looking at clients' content and I'm auditing their content or I'm auditing their overall marketing strategy, I think this is something we can often not realize that we are missing or have an opportunity to lean into a lot more. What I really have seen to be true, because it's more saturated, and just because it's more saturated, that does not, again, that is not a bad thing. That means there's also more people online. There is more demand. There are more people spending their money. There are more people who trust buying on the internet. Again, I just had one of my best quarters in business. My clients some of them are having their best months and quarters. Like I'm seeing sales come in every day. So people are buying. There's plenty, there's enough to go around. But it does mean, again, if it's more saturated, we have to be paying attention to these things in your content in a way we just didn't have to in 2020 or in 2019, like pre-COVID, but even during COVID. And the connection point I'm really seeing as so important, because what I see with the connection element or part of your content strategy is when it's saturated, when we have a lot of people in a specific niche or industry who are all offering something really similar and who are all saying something pretty similar. And we also have things like AI and ChatGPT that is creating more noise to fill the algorithm, right? That is all pretty similar. One of the ways you can stand out and differentiate is through the ways you build connection and help people to see your heart, to see your values, to learn about you, and to bridge that know, like, and trust, but in a way where you're building a genuine connection and relationship with someone. That is something that will have you stand out all day, every day. And I think something we sometimes forget, especially, I was talking about this with a client who was, just in a little anxiety as people get in business. Like, no shame if that's anyone here. I think that's a normal thing when you feel like something isn't working, you're not making the money you want. And one of the things I was reflecting is, it's really easy when, and this client's pattern when they're in anxiety is to really start to look at like getting overly almost like analytical and like, how do I just like fire hose people with more information, like do more and get like more like granular in just like the technical and like the to-do list, and like it's very like doing oriented as a like response to the anxiety. And what I was reflecting is like there's nothing wrong with the doing outside of like what's feeding the doing and the anxiety that we want to soothe and create some safety there. But really what I was saying is how this was impacting her content is it was becoming very surface level and very technically correct and like hitting that checkbox and like almost like templated. And I think that's another, we just have a lot of, like, everybody's got the templated, everybody's like following the templates on Instagram, right? So we've got a lot of the sameness, but because of that, it was missing the emotionality. It was missing her heart. It was missing some of her rawness. It was missing some of the, I keep saying strategic vulnerability, but it doesn't even have to be vulnerable, right? It could be funny. It could be humorous. It could be entertaining. It could be inspiring, but it was just missing parts of her. And it was just very technically like templated, like this is how you write a templated piece of content correctly, except for everybody has got the same fucking templates and is writing a templated piece of content correctly. That's just not the thing that is going to, that's the thing that will work if you're just checking off a checklist. It's like, I must get content out to check my visibility list in my strategy. But that's just no longer cutting it. And what takes you past, like, great, I did my to-do today to put out a piece of content, and instead have something that actually cuts through the noise and cuts through the screen and has someone be like, oh my gosh, this person gets me. This person, I want to pay this person. I want to hire this person. I want to work with this person, is bringing in your heart, your values, that emotionality. And again, emotionality can mean just how do we have someone feel something that doesn't have to be sadness, right? It doesn't have to be, it could be, again, laughter. It could be, I think sometimes really great connection content is that just like slice of life where it's just like, oh my gosh, me too. But when you're bringing that into your content, we have to remember people buy for emotional reasons, and they fill those emotional reasons in with logic. Most people aren't buying for logical reasons and then filling it in with emotionality, right? And so and this is especially true when it's just a little bit more saturated online. When it's saturated online, if you're looking at 100 people who are basically selling the same thing and basically saying something really similar, right? I mean, sure, we can have like snazzier branding colors or like dance a little bit funkier in our reel or whatever the thing is to try to get someone's attention. Or I think what's actually more strategic, what actually works with what compels people to pay attention and to make buying decisions, and what's frankly a lot easier, is looking at how are we bringing in those connection points and not thinking of a connection point as simply, I think, 2 years ago, we thought of connection point as simply a touch point, right? If I just showed up online, I was connecting with someone. That was like that touch point with someone. And really and truly, that is what worked. I really think, in 2020, it was sort of just like, how can you just show up enough to build enough connection points? Because it was a very different climate then. I think today there's more than enough connection points out there from everyone, right? It's not that. It's like, what's the depth of that connection point? How are we creating that emotional know, like, and trust? And if you think about how to bring that into your content, that is going to have your strategy blow up. And I really want to invite you to think about how this can be a part of your selling proposition, your unique selling proposition. And I think this can maybe feel very relieving and helpful for everyone. I think last year I was talking a lot about tapping into your unique edge in your content. This can be that. I think sometimes when we hear about like you need to differentiate and you need to find out or figure out what's unique about your work and speak to that in the online space, I think sometimes that can feel really challenging for some of you where, I have clients, I'll use a client who's an OBM as an example. Of course, she has a unique way that she's an OBM, but in some ways, what she's selling and what her process and what she does is very similar to a lot of OBMs. It's not like she has some wildly different perspective in terms of how the back end of a business should be managed and run, but really her unique selling proposition and what makes her, she's excellent at content, and she just created a group program that she sold. It was like 27 spots in her first round launch without a conversion event, and she's just done a back end offer off the back for like a continuing offer, and I think 19 of those people continued into that. Anyway, I'm sharing this with you because it's not like what she's selling is like there's this massively like unique selling proposition, but she is excellent at bringing connection to her content strategy, excellent at bringing her heart, who she is, like what we're talking about here, the personalization, bringing emotion, bringing the humor, bringing, if it's something more vulnerable, her ability to connect through her content strategy is really great. And she has a relatively small audience, and she's getting these results. This is a big part of why. And of course, we have a holistic strategy we put into place. Do not hear this conversation today where it's like all that matters is one piece of content, right? There's a whole holistic strategy that this is one part of, but it's a really important part that is, I would wager a bet, because she's gotten so many comments from people, and she has really great retention with her clients as well. If we were to look at what compelled most people to pay attention to her in the first place, to reach out, to either hire her as an OBM, to enroll in her program, to enroll in the continuation to stay with her, my guess is it's partially that she's excellent at what she does, like for sure, but there are other people who are excellent at what she does as well. I would bet a ton of it is because people really like her. And I don't know, maybe that's like the thing we're not supposed to say, but that is her unique selling proposition. No one can be her. Literally no one can be her and do business the way she does business. And she's just gotten really good at honing that, owning that, and sharing that in her content, and that is her connection point. So that's something I would really just be playing around with. We're not going to get to all 5 of these, so what I will actually do is next week, instead of the live stream we have planned, I'm going to make this a part 2, and we're going to continue this because I think this is just so important, what everybody needs to be paying attention to right now, because everybody, like, there is enough to go around, but these are the things that if your content feels like it's not getting the reach or it's falling flat, like, these are the things to be paying attention to. With this one here, everyone in this group can do this. Everyone in this group, like, I know if you're in this group, you're heart-centered, you're caring, you have like such a passion for your work, right? This is not a group of bro marketers. Y'all know I actually have no beef with bro marketers. I think they're very good at marketing. I have a problem with actually some people in our space who have very out of integrity marketing tactics and strategies that are actually more in our space than in the bro marketing space. However, that's a little sidebar there. All of you here know how to connect. Like, this is what most people in this group, like, your top skill set is connection. It is knowing how to build know, like, and trust. It's empathy. It's having a big heart. Like, it's all of these pieces, right? It's knowing how to be vulnerable. It's knowing how to be inspirational. It's knowing how to be funny or entertaining. It could also be edgy, right? It doesn't have to be, like, think about the emotions you want to elicit. But this is the piece here where I would just really invite you to look at your content strategy and look at where have you just been phoning it in or just getting stuck into like information, how to, like, I just need to like fire hose people. I keep saying that word, but I feel like it's very appropriate with like more, instead of where is my opportunity to bring more of me to this content, to bring more of my heart, to bring more of my values, to bring more of my passion, to bring more of what I believe, to bring more of what I don't believe, right? To bring more of that ability to bridge the screen to actually reach out and connect with someone. I promise you, when you play with that, that will be your unique edge. That will really help you blow up. If you start paying attention to the people you like to learn from online, the people whose content you consume, the people who you're like, I don't understand. I'm doing pretty much the same thing as them, but why are they? Like, I don't understand why like they're blowing up. My guess is at least one of the things they're doing is they're really focused on this connection piece and content that is designed for connection. And what I would say with this, and I do think this is something just in terms of what I'm seeing work online, that maybe is a little bit different again from a couple of years ago. I think this connection piece, the know, like, and trust, people buying based off emotions, like people buying because they feel like they have a connection with you and something in common with you. I think that's always been true. But I think historically a lot of people were talking about content pillars, which I've never really super focused on in my business. But what I would maybe think about is if you are someone who thinks about your content through like what pillars do you want, I might think about one of those pillars. If you're like, I have 5 pillars and I touch on one of these pillars each day per week in my content, I might think about one of those pillars actually being connection, because what I am seeing and what I'm seeing work really well is some content that is strategically designed just to build connection with your audience and nothing else, right? Like, it's not actually problem awareness. It's not actually relevance in terms of what it is you sell. It's not actually educational content. It's not actually talking about your offer. It's literally just about connection. And that might be something, depending on what your goals are in your business, to think about, including, is there an opportunity for thinking about your pillars and having maybe one post or one piece of content, or if you do a podcast or you do a live stream, having a component of that is focused on the connection piece. I'm really seeing that as a key driver right now. All right, I just saw, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, y'all. I just like went on a whole tear here, and I just want to read this. Laura says, hi, boarding my flight to New York City in a minute, but wanted to watch while I wait. I can't wait to see you in New York City. I hope I'm allowed to say that live. I'm just like too excited that I can't not say that. Have a really safe flight. I will see you in a couple of days. And Kate says, the edge for me has been talking about what I don't agree with. That's been tough. Kate, here's a thought, because I hear that and I think that can be an edge for everyone, and I think sometimes we can almost try to like force an edge, and then that causes more like restriction or resistance around sharing something, or like, and then we don't share the things we want to connect with. I wonder if, and I do think it's helpful and important to speak to what we don't agree with, absolutely, from a thought leadership perspective, but I wonder for you if it might be helpful or an easier entry point with that edge to think about, what do you agree with, or like what is the antithesis of whatever you don't agree with, what is the antithesis of that? Like what is I don't know what that might be in particular, but let's say it's a certain modality or something that you're seeing in your industry. What is the other side of that you can more come from the angle of like, this is what I agree with, this is what I see really working from my experience, from my client experience, like this is what I back. And maybe that's an easier way to sort of like back your way into it. And then of course, if that feels more comfortable, you can speak to the other side. But I think that can do the same job equally as well, and still bring that connection point and bring in that edge. And I just, for everyone listening, I think just remembering that polarization is really valuable in marketing and with content, because we've talked about this before, but if you have a magnet, a really strong magnet, the stronger a magnet attracts, the stronger it's going to repel, right? So polarization is a valuable tool, but I think what sometimes happens is we hear that as smart humans to mean I have to be polarizing to create polarization in my marketing. And I hear a word like edge, or like I need to be edgy, or like I just need to like be the person who's like, I don't agree with all this stuff. And I just want to offer that you can be equally polarizing by focusing on what you do so strongly believe in, right? If we just think about the attraction side of the magnet, if you focus so much on who you want to attract, what that is that you really believe in, that is naturally going to imply you don't believe in the opposite, and it is naturally going to repel anybody who wants the opposite. So maybe that's permission giving, but I think also just a different way to think about it. And Kate, just because I know you, I know your personality, you might just not be a person who's gonna be like, I don't fucking believe in this shit, because that's just not who you are. But I do, just knowing your personality, know you're probably someone who can really get behind, here's what I really, really believe in, and here's why. And that might also just naturally bring in some of those other pieces. It's okay, I don't know if that lands with you, but that's what came up for me hearing that. Y'all, I love you so much. I have to hop off because I need to prep for a client call. So there are three more components to this. So what I'm going to do again is we will bump next week's live stream, and I will have this instead of this is valuable for you all. You can let me know in the comments, but that's what I'll plan on doing. And if you're hearing this, I will real quickly say, yes, I'm fully booked. I'm a fully booked one-on-one coach. However, I know how important this is, and I have just been helping so many clients with this. So we have opened up more time on my calendar. I was taking Fridays off originally. We've opened up some Fridays and just some additional times throughout the week to offer more of my new strategy intensive, Your Marketing Multiplied, where we can take a look at your message, your marketing strategy, including your content, but also that holistic strategy we were talking about, because it is not just about what you're posting. It is your overall marketing strategy in terms of how you're getting visible, what's your traffic source, how we're nurturing people, what are we leading people into the back end? Like, what is that customer journey? And if we don't have that in place, it's really challenging in 2024 to make the revenue consistently that you want. It will feel a little bit more like you're playing a guessing game instead of, I just know I can rely on this revenue. So we have opened up some more spots for that. I will drop a link for a consultation completely free if you have questions about that, or if you want to focus on something different. If you were hearing me talk about how important an offer is, or if you're curious about like how to set up an offer and price that, or if you've got your marketing strategy down, it's more the sales conversions on the back end. Both of those are great things to do in that intensive. I will drop a link for a free coaching consultation as well as for the intensive itself. Again, I would love to support y'all with this. I know this is something we can do in a week-long intensive, so take me up on that. We have opened up additional spots. I would love to support y'all. Kate says, yes, very permission giving. So much easier for me to talk about what I believe in. Thank you. So glad that lands for you. Y'all, I love you so much. Thank you for being here. I will be back next week, and we will pick this conversation up. Bye, y'all.